The artificial atmosphere systems of Helios Station hummed with practiced efficiency, cycling clean air throughout the massive structure that served as the foremost trading hub in the Epsilon sector. Security, Chief Nix Vallon stood with perfect posture at the edge of the docking bay, hands clasped behind his back as he observed the approaching diplomatic vessel with professional detachment. Is this standard protocol, making distinguished guests wait while maintenance droids scuttle about? Lieutenant Farrow grumbled beside him, adjusting her uniform collar for the 5th time in as many minutes. Nix maintained his focus on the sleek ship easing into its designated berth. Standard protocol is whatever keeps this station and its occupants safe, Lieutenant, even for distinguished guests. The ship's hull gleamed under the docking bay lights, its pearlescent surface shimmering with opalescent patterns that marked it as Aquarian design. Impressive, but Nix had learned long ago that impressive exteriors often concealed troublesome interiors. Her profile says she's difficult, Farrow muttered, scanning through the briefing on her datapad. Diplomatic code for absolute nightmare, Nix replied dryly. Ambassador Thalassa Zor, special envoy to the Interstellar Commerce Guild, daughter of High Minister Zor of Aquarius Prime, known for her exacting standards. As if on cue, a cloud of iridescent mist billowed from the ship's descending ramp, ceremonial Aquarian fog, a luxury import that cost more per cubic meter than most station workers earned in a month. The fog parted to reveal a procession of attendants carrying ornate containers, followed by the ambassador herself. Nix's first thought was that the dossier photos hadn't done her justice. Thalassa Zor stood tall and regal, her blue skin the deep, rich color of Earth's ancient oceans, shimmering with subtle bioluminescent patterns that pulsed just beneath the surface. Her eyes were large and almond-shaped, iris-less orbs of silver that seemed to take in everything at once. Her hair, if it could be called that, consisted of delicate tendrils that floated around her head like sea anemones in gentle current, each one tipped with a phosphorescent glow. She wore a form-fitting ensemble that appeared to be made of some living material, shifting patterns of blue and silver that complemented her skin, with strategic cutouts revealing glimpses of azure flesh. An outfit more suited to a high-end nightclub than a diplomatic mission. "Security Chief Vallon," she said, her voice oddly melodic yet sharp like crystal chimes in a storm. "I expected someone more formidable to welcome me." Nix stepped forward, maintaining his professional demeanor despite the immediate slight. "Ambassador Zor, on behalf of Helios Station, welcome. I'm the head of security and will personally oversee your safety during your stay." She circled him slowly, silver eyes assessing him with undisguised criticism. A faint scent like ocean breeze and exotic spices followed her movement. "A human? How quaint. I thought they would assign someone more suitable to my position." "I assure you, my credentials exceed requirements for this assignment," Nix replied evenly, ignoring the way her gaze lingered on the toned muscles visible beneath his fitted security uniform. "We shall see," she snapped her fingers, and her entourage immediately began moving toward the exit. "My quarters better be prepared precisely as I specified." Nix fell into step beside her. "Everything has been arranged according to your requirements, Ambassador Zor." "I sincerely doubt that," she scoffed. "Humans rarely comprehend the nuances of proper accommodation." As they walked through the station's main concourse, Nix noticed other personnel quickly moving aside, some openly staring at the Aquarian diplomat. Her bioluminescent patterns seemed to intensify under their attention, a physiological response he'd read about but never witnessed firsthand. "Your security measures are laughable," she commented, gesturing toward a scanning checkpoint. "Any determined assassin could bypass these precautions with minimal effort." "Our systems are state-of-the-art," Nix countered, "and I personally vetted every member of the security team." She stopped abruptly, turning to face him. "You don't understand who I am, do you?" "You're Ambassador Thalassa Zor, daughter of High Minister Zor, here on a diplomatic mission to negotiate new trade routes through Aquarian space," he recited calmly. "I am the heir to the largest aquaculture empire in 5 systems," she corrected, poking him firmly in the chest with one slender, webbed finger. "My lineage traces back to the founders of the Aquarian Collective. I could purchase this entire station with what I spend on personal grooming in a standard year." Nix remained stoic, though the finger jabbing at his chest was testing his patience. Your lineage is noted in your file, Ambassador. Her silver eyes flashed. You don't even look at me with the proper deference. She poked him again, harder this time. Nix exhaled slowly, counting backward from 10 in his head, a meditation technique that had served him well through years of dealing with difficult dignitaries. Do you think you can simply ignore me? Another poke, this time accompanied by a step closer, invading his personal space, the scent of her exotic perfume becoming almost overwhelming. Ambassador, I'm not here for entertainment, he said, his voice low and controlled. I'm here to ensure your safety and the security of this station. Her lips, tinted with a subtle blue-violet hue, curled into a smirk. Oh, so the human does have a voice. I was beginning to wonder if you were mute. Her finger rose again, but this time she didn't aim for his chest. Instead, she brushed it lightly against his jawline, tracing the line of his stubble. Such primitive features. Fascinating, really. That was it. The line had been crossed. In one fluid motion, Nix captured her wrist in his hand. Before she could react, before he could fully process his own actions, he lifted her hand to his face and nipped at her fingers. Not hard enough to break skin, but definitely enough to make a point. The concourse fell silent. Even the background hum of the station system seemed to fade away as Ambassador Zor stared at him in absolute shock. Her silvery eyes widened, the bioluminescent patterns on her skin flaring brightly in what he recognized as an Aquarian display of extreme surprise. What did you just do? She whispered, her melodic voice trembling slightly. Nix released her wrist but held her gaze. Showed you that even humans have boundaries, Ambassador. For several long seconds, they stood frozen in a tableau of mutual astonishment. She filled with outrage and something else he couldn't quite identify, and he's suddenly aware that he might have just created a diplomatic incident of galactic proportions. Security Chief Valen, she finally said, her voice unnervingly calm, I believe we need to discuss the parameters of your service, in private. Before Nix could respond, the station's alarm system blared to life. Security breach in Sector 7, announced the automated system. All personnel to designated stations. Nix's communicator buzzed at his wrist. Chief, we've got unauthorized access to the main computer core, Lieutenant Farrow's voice reported. Looks like someone's trying to hack into the defense systems. I'm on my way, Nix replied, then turned to Ambassador Zor. You'll be escorted to your quarters by my team. Please remain there until I return. I don't take orders from... This isn't a request, he cut her off, signaling to two nearby security officers. This is protocol during a security breach. For once, she seemed too surprised by his authoritative tone to argue. As the security officers approached to escort her, Nix was already moving toward Sector 7, his mind racing through possible scenarios and response strategies. What he didn't see was the small smile that played across Ambassador Zor's blue lips as she watched him go, or the way she absently touched the fingers he had bitten, a curious expression replacing her earlier outrage as her skin glowed with a pattern he would have recognized, had he been looking, as the Aquarian physiological response to intense interest. The security breach turned out to be a sophisticated attempt to access classified station protocols. Nix spent hours coordinating the response, reinforcing firewalls, and interrogating the cybersecurity team about how the breach had occurred. By the time he made it back to his quarters, he was exhausted and still processing the day's events, particularly his unorthodox interaction with Ambassador Zor. He knew he should report the incident to Station Director Okafor, but something held him back. Perhaps it was the knowledge that such a report would inevitably lead to his reassignment, or worse. He had just removed his uniform jacket when his door chime sounded. Identify visitor, he commanded. Ambassador Thalassa Zor, the system responded. Nix closed his eyes briefly, considering his options. He could ignore her, but that would only delay the inevitable. Better to face whatever disciplinary action she was about to set in motion. Enter, he called, pulling on a standard-issue black t-shirt. The door slid open to reveal Thalassa still in her form-fitting attire, but now without her entourage. She stepped inside, allowing the door to close behind her, the room immediately filling with her ocean scent. Security Chief Valen, she said, her voice lacking its earlier sharpness. I believe we have unfinished business. Nix straightened, preparing himself for whatever complaint or threat she was about to level against him. Ambassador Zor, regarding my earlier behavior. No one, she interrupted, moving closer. No one has ever done that to me before. He blinked, thrown off by her tone. It wasn't angry as he'd expected, but almost impressed. It was unprofessional, he admitted. I apologize for... Don't, she cut him off again, now close enough that he could see the subtle patterns pulsing beneath her blue skin. Don't apologize, it was refreshing. Nick studied her face, trying to determine if this was some kind of trap. Refreshing. Do you know how tedious it is? She asked, beginning to pace his small quarters. Everyone bowing and scraping, agreeing with everything I say, rushing to fulfill my every whim. No one ever challenges me. No one ever treats me like a person instead of a title. That doesn't excuse my behavior, Nick said carefully. She stopped packing and turned to face him. Perhaps not, but it does explain why I'm here instead of filing a formal complaint that would end your career. And why are you here exactly? He asked, suddenly very aware of how small his quarters felt with her in them. Thalassa smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her face from merely beautiful to breathtaking. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin shifted to a softer, more rhythmic pulse. I'm here because you're interesting, Security Chief Valen, and interesting things are rare in my world. Before Nix could respond, his communicator buzzed again. Chief, we've identified the source of the security breach, came Lieutenant Farrow's voice. You're going to want to see this. Nix glanced at Thalassa apologetically. Duty calls. Indeed it does, she replied, moving toward the door. But our conversation isn't over, Security Chief. I'll make sure of that. As she left, Nix couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just become significantly more complicated and potentially more dangerous than any security breach could ever be. The command center of Helios Station buzzed with activity as Nix stared at the holographic display, his jaw clenched tight. The security breach had been more sophisticated than initially thought, a multi-layered infiltration designed to bypass even the most advanced protocols. Play it again, he ordered, and Lieutenant Farrow nodded, rewinding the surveillance footage. The hologram flickered, showing a shadowy figure moving through maintenance corridors near Ambassador Zor's assigned quarters. The intruder's face remained obscured, but their movements were precise, practiced, professional. Facial recognition came up empty, Farrow reported, but the height and build analysis suggests Voridian origins. Voridians? Nix frowned. The reptilian species wasn't known for subtlety. This is too sophisticated for their usual smash-and-grab operations. Unless they're working for someone else, suggested Officer Patel from her console. Nix nodded slowly. Someone with resources. He straightened, decision made. Pull all data on known Voridian operatives in this sector, and get me everything we have on Ambassador Zor's enemies. Business rivals, political opponents, jilted lovers, the works. Sir, Farrow hesitated. That could be a rather extensive list. Then you better get started, Nix replied, already heading for the door. I need to inform our guest that she's apparently the target. Thalassa's quarters occupied an entire section of the diplomatic wing, a space typically reserved for planetary governors or high council representatives. The opulence was evident even from the corridor, with the scent of exotic aquatic flora wafting through the air and the soft sound of flowing water playing within. Nix pressed the entry chime, steeling himself for another confrontation. When the door slid open, he was surprised to find Thalassa alone, without her usual entourage of attendants. Security Chief Valen, she greeted him, her silver eyes lighting up. Twice in one day, I'm beginning to think you enjoy my company. She had changed from her earlier provocative outfit into something that should have been more modest, a flowing robe of shimmering material that caught the light with every movement, but somehow managed to be equally alluring. The fabric seemed to ripple like water around her form, and the deep azure color matched her skin tone perfectly. This isn't a social call, Ambassador, Nix said, trying to keep his eyes fixed firmly on her face. May I come in? She stepped aside with a graceful gesture. By all means, and please call me Thalassa. Ambassador Zor makes me sound like my mother. Nix entered, immediately scanning the room for potential security vulnerabilities. The suite was lavish, with furnishings imported from at least 3 different star systems, but what caught his attention were the windows, large, panoramic, and offering an excellent line of sight for any would-be assassin. "We need to move you to a more secure location," he said without preamble. "The security breach was targeted. Someone's trying to get to you." Thalassa laughed, a musical sound that caught him off guard. "Security chief, someone is always trying to get to me, as you put it. It comes with the territory." "This is different," Nix insisted. "The infiltration was professional, targeted specifically at your quarter's security systems. This isn't some opportunistic thief or paparazzi drone. This is a coordinated attack." She studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable, the patterns beneath her skin shifting to a slower, more deliberate rhythm. "And your concern for my safety, how touching." "It's my job," he replied automatically. "Is it your job to bite diplomats who annoy you too?" she asked, a mischievous glint in her silver eyes. Nix felt heat rise to his face. "About that?" "Oh, don't start apologizing again," she waved dismissively. "It was the most interesting thing that's happened to me in months." She moved closer, her robe shimmering like liquid starlight. "Do you know how many beings across the galaxy would give their entire fortunes for the privilege of touching me, let alone—" Her voice dropped to a whisper, "tasting me." The way she said "tasting" sent an unexpected jolt through Nix's system. "Ambassador Thalassa, we need to focus on the security threat." "Of course," she agreed, though her tone suggested she found his professional concern amusing. "What do you propose, security chief? Shall I barricade myself in some dreary safe room while you hunt down these mysterious assassins?" "Actually, yes," Nix nodded. "We have secure quarters in the central hub, away from external walls, with dedicated security systems independent from the main grid." Thalassa sighed dramatically. "How dreadfully boring. I have meetings scheduled, security chief, diplomatic functions. I didn't come all this way to hide in a bunker." "Those meetings can be rescheduled or conducted virtually," Nix countered. "Your safety takes precedence." "Does it?" she asked, tilting her head, the tendrils around her face swaying gracefully with the movement. "Or is it the station's reputation you're concerned with? Imagine the scandal if High Minister Zor's daughter were assassinated under Helios protection." Nix stepped closer, his patience wearing thin. "I don't give a damn about politics or reputation. I'm trying to keep you alive." "How refreshingly direct," she murmured, her silver eyes locked with his. "Very well, security chief. I'll agree to your security measures on one condition." He should have known there would be conditions, which is, "You stay with me," she said simply, "as my personal security detail." Nix blinked. "That's not necessary. I have a team of highly trained." "I don't trust them," she interrupted. "I trust you." "You don't even know me," he pointed out. Thalassa smiled, a slow, deliberate expression that transformed her face. The bioluminescent patterns beneath her skin pulsed more rapidly. "I know enough. You're the only person on this station who sees me as more than a title or a political asset. You treat me like a person, albeit an annoying one." She reached out, her webbed fingers hovering just shy of touching his arm. "Besides, you've already demonstrated your willingness to take decisive action when necessary." The memory of her finger against his lips, the impulsive bite, flashed through Nix's mind. "That was inappropriate." "It was honest," she corrected, "and in my experience, honest people are rare and valuable." Her expression turned serious, the bioluminescent patterns dimming slightly. "So do we have a deal, security chief? You as my personal protector until this threat is neutralized." Every instinct told Nix this was a bad idea. He should assign a team, maintain professional distance, coordinate the investigation from the command center. But something in her silver eyes, vulnerability beneath the arrogance, perhaps, made the decision for him. "Fine," he agreed, "but we play by my rules. No diplomatic functions, no unnecessary exposure, and you follow my instructions without argument." Thalassa laughed again, the sound like crystal wind chimes. "I can't promise the without argument part, but I'll consider your instructions carefully." Nix suppressed a sigh. "Pack what you need, essential items only. We move in 30 minutes. As he turned to make the necessary arrangements, he caught sight of Thalassa's reflection in one of the large windows. The expression on her face wasn't the haughty disdain he'd come to expect, but something softer, almost vulnerable. and the bioluminescent patterns on her skin had shifted to a configuration he hadn't seen before. The secure quarters were significantly less luxurious than Thalassa's diplomatic suite, but still comfortable by station standards. Located deep within Helios Station's central hub, the rooms were designed for high-ranking officials during emergencies, functional, secure, and completely isolated from external access points. Cozy, Thalassa commented dryly as she surveyed the main living area, though your station designers could benefit from lessons in aesthetics. Nix ignored the jab, busy configuring the security systems. The outer door requires both biometric and code authentication. Food will be delivered by trusted personnel only. Communications are limited to secure channels, which I'll monitor personally. So I'm effectively your prisoner, she observed, running a webbed finger along the edge of a utilitarian desk. You're under protection, he corrected. There's a difference. Is there? She moved to stand behind him, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her body. Both scenarios involve being confined to a small space under your watchful eye. Nix turned to face her, finding himself unexpectedly close. Her silver eyes were even more striking up close, with subtle rippling patterns that reminded him of moonlight on water. The difference, he said carefully, is intent. I'm not keeping you here to control you. I'm keeping you here to protect you. And if I want to leave, she challenged, then I'll do everything in my power to convince you otherwise, he replied honestly. But ultimately, you're not my prisoner. You're my responsibility. Something flickered across her face, surprise perhaps at his candor. The bioluminescent patterns beneath her skin shifted to a soft, steady pulse. You're a curious human, Nix Valen. It was the first time she'd used his first name, and he found himself oddly pleased by the sound of it on her lips. Nix, she repeated, as if testing how it felt to say. Named for an ancient earth deity of night, I believe it suits you. The compliment caught him off guard, and he busied himself with the security console again. I need to check in with my team, see if they've made any progress identifying our intruder. Of course, she said, stepping back and giving him space. Do what you must. Nix activated his communicator. Valen to command center. Pharaoh here, sir, came the immediate response. We've been analyzing the infiltration pattern. It's unusual. Unusual how? Nix asked, his attention sharpening. The intruder bypassed 3 layers of security, but didn't actually access any sensitive systems. It's like they were testing our defenses, mapping out vulnerabilities without exploiting them. Reconnaissance, Nix muttered. They're planning something bigger. That's our assessment as well, sir. We've identified similar patterns at 2 other stations in the past month, both prior to diplomatic visits by high-value targets. Any casualties at those stations? Nix asked, aware of Thalassa listening intently. None, sir. In both cases, the targets left before any direct action was taken. But we've received intelligence suggesting the same operatives may be involved in the disappearance of a Centaurian diplomat last quarter. Nix's jaw tightened. Keep digging. I want names, affiliations, known associates, anything that might help us identify who's behind this, and double the security on all access points to the central hub. Already done, sir. Pharaoh out. As the communication ended, Nix turned to find Thalassa watching him with an unreadable expression, the luminescent patterns under her skin pulsing slowly. It seems I brought trouble to your doorstep, security chief, she said, her usual haughty tone subdued. The trouble would have found its way here with or without you, he replied. At least now we're aware of it. Thalassa moved to the room's small viewport, gazing out at the limited view of the station's interior. You know, in my culture there's a saying, danger makes strange bedfellows. Nix raised an eyebrow. I think humans have a similar expression. Do they? She turned to face him, a smile playing at the corners of her blue-tinted lips. How fascinating. Perhaps our species aren't so different after all. In some ways, he acknowledged, suddenly aware of how the station's lighting caught the iridescent highlights in her tendril-like hair. And in others, she prompted, taking a step toward him. Nix found himself mirroring her movement, closing the distance between them slightly. In others, we're worlds apart. Worlds can be bridged, she murmured, her silver eyes holding his. The air between them seemed to thicken, charged with something neither of them had fully acknowledged. Nyx was acutely conscious of her alien beauty, the rich blue of her skin, the impossible silver of her eyes, the way her hair tendrils seemed alive with their own inner light. "Thalassa," he began, not entirely sure what he intended to say. The moment was shattered by the sudden blare of alarms. Red emergency lights bathed the room, casting strange shadows across Thalassa's features. "Security breach in Central Hub," announced the station's automated system. "All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill." Nyx's communicator buzzed frantically. "Chief," Pharaoh's voice was tight with urgency. "They're inside the station, multiple hostiles, heavily armed, heading straight for the secure quarters." "Lock it down," Nyx ordered, already moving to the weapons locker embedded in the wall. "Full containment protocols. No one gets in or out without my direct authorization." "Sir, they've already bypassed the first security checkpoint. They're using station override codes." Nyx cursed under his breath as he punched in the code to the weapons locker. Inside job, should have seen it coming. He pulled out a standard-issue pulse rifle and a sidearm, checking both quickly. Thalassa watched him, her earlier playfulness replaced by a calm focus that surprised him. "How many?" she asked. "At least 6, according to the security feeds," he replied, offering her the sidearm. "You know how to use one of these." She took the weapon with practiced ease, checking the charge and safety in a fluid motion that spoke of experience. "I wasn't always a pampered diplomat, Nyx." He raised an eyebrow but didn't have time to question her further. "Stay behind me. If I fall, there's an emergency escape hatch in the bedroom. It leads to maintenance tunnels that can take you to the evacuation pods." "I'm not leaving you behind," she said firmly. "This isn't a debate," Nyx replied, moving to position himself near the door. "Your survival is the priority." "And who decided that?" she challenged, taking up position on the opposite side of the door, her stance professional and balanced. "I did," he said simply. "It's my job." "Your job," she repeated, a strange expression crossing her face, the patterns beneath her skin flaring briefly. "Is that all this is to you?